My name is Mary Kay Holmes. I am a motivational speaker, a lawyer, and a two-time survivor of human trafficking and formerly incarcerated citizen.
Hi, I'm Latia Ashley, publisher and executive producer of Film Open Diary, and I am kicking it live here with the ladies. So I have a question about human trafficking, and I don't want to play devil's advocate, but this is something that I saw on social media where women are saying that social media and the hypersexual activity that's perpetuated in music today is something that we should guard and protect our children from, because although little girls are doing the dances because it's trending, it's TikTok, it's social media, but there are predators that are out there that are preying on things like that. How do you feel about that, Mary?
I feel very strongly about that, actually. And it's interesting enough, like I see people who post that they're fighting human trafficking, they're against human trafficking, but yet they perpetuate a lot of the images that unfortunately create an environment that makes our young girls and young boys more vulnerable, because obviously we know that boys can be trafficked as well, men and women can be trafficked as well, but particularly our young women. And when I look at media, when I look at the music, I think back to when Foxy Brown was very popular, when she first came out, the rap artist. And I think about when she was in one of her first videos, and a lot of people don't realize it, but she was 15, 16 years old in a lot of these videos, and when she was recording in this music for Def Jam. And this was accepted, and no one questioned it. Well, I can't say no one questioned it, but the popular opinion was that this was sexy, this was popular, this was what people were doing, this was what the media showed. But when Britney Spears was on the cover of Rolling Stone magazine with her belly button showing, there was this whole outcry. There was this big outrage about how sexy is too sexy, and they became very protective of Britney Spears, and she was the same age as Foxy. But Foxy was perceived as an adult, same age. But Britney was America's sweetheart. And so really what it boils down to is, I think it's our responsibility, because we know the media is going to do what they're going to do. But now social media has made us all a part of that media chain, so to speak. So I think it really starts with us. We have to be protective of, what we portray, what we put out there, especially when it relates to young artists.
Mary.
And what we put out there as far as these TikTok videos and
now,
things
Mary,
like that.
Mary.
Yes.
I want you to grasp what you're saying. You said some things that I think went over a lot of people's head. What you just pointed out was the way that young black females are viewed in media opposed to Caucasian Americans. And you touched on males being sex trafficked. Listen, when I think of sex trafficking, I'm guilty of never thinking of men, of little boys. So that's something that I think I want to look more into, because it didn't dawn on me until you just said something that this happens to little boys too.
Right. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
And now think about it. I was trafficked twice. I didn't even know what it was until I was 38 years old. I didn't realize what was going on. But even now, as someone who survived it and know what it is, sometimes I don't think about the young men, the boys, the adult men who can become victimized, because the media puts out this one portrayal, or there's this constant narrative that's being put out there, and unfortunately what happens is people start to see it just in that one light, and then what unfortunately begins to happen is that it's hard for us to see it in other ways, and it can happen right under our nose, and it's right there in plain sight, but people don't see it. That's why I call the book Trapped in Plain Sight, because it happened. Think about this. A lot of people don't think about the human trafficking. They think about the sex trafficking because that's like the, that's human nature. That's more, in your face. It's more raunchy. It's, more tantalizing, however you want to put it. So people, it's like the whole concept of sex sells. So people can think about sex trafficking, but they don't think about the human trafficking, where people can be exploited in so many different ways. So I'm going to give you a prime example that might just really, I don't know, I think it will really be a huge eye-opener and blow some people's minds. Think about the young men in every hood that we all know, young boys who are drug dealers. Think about the minors, the underage boys who are put on street corners by adult men and put on street corners to sell drugs. And we look at those young boys as being responsible for their actions, and we blame them. We call them hoodlums, thugs. I don't know if anybody uses hoodlums anymore. It might be a little outdated. But, we call them thugs. We call them gangsters, whatever the media wants to call them. And they're looked at as animals, and they're young boys. But who is putting the drugs in their hands? They're being exploited by their own older men who has them selling drugs, making very little money, and they're profiting off of exploiting these boys because they're dangling the hopes of a better life. New sneakers, Jordans, paying their mom's rent, coming out of poverty, getting out of the hood, getting out of Section 8, getting out of the projects. That's what's dangled in front of them. And so you have 12-year-old boys selling drugs. Who's responsible for that 12-year-old boy getting drugs? That is human trafficking.
Larger scale than we thought.
Yeah, that is
just watching the news. They portrayed as just women, and that's what I thought myself. I never even imagined that it was everyone, and that's the form of it.
Right.
I didn't know. And they get, like you said, the plain sight, the internet, and especially with the girls, they're doing jobs and just anything.
Right.
And so I always have to watch my daughters with their TikToks and to see them is talking to them, because it starts like that.
Right. It becomes easy. Yeah. And think about this too. Think about, everybody knows the scenario of the mother who's addicted to drugs and selling her child for drugs. That was like the butt of a joke when I was growing up. The crack mother, it wasn't looked at as human trafficking. It was looked at as, this is a person who's addicted and they're using their child to get drugs. And so that fits squarely within the definition of what trafficking is, because they're selling their child over and over again. It's a commodity that will never run out. You can sell drugs that one time, the person uses it, it's gone. They got to come back and get more. You got to go back and re-up, so to speak. You got to go back and buy more drugs. But when you have a human that you're selling, you have that person that you can sell over and over again, multiple times a day. And these babies, that's happening in the hood every single day. But we're not calling it human trafficking. We're calling it child abuse, and rightfully so. We can see it as child abuse, but we cannot. It's like media refuses to label that as human trafficking. And I believe when we start calling it what it is, maybe that would instill fear in the hearts of people who are doing this and say, listen, this is more than me being a bad mom. This is more than me being a drug dealer and being a bad influence on young men. If I start getting locked up, or I start getting, charged with human trafficking, maybe now that means like somebody would think twice before they do it. The pimp game. We called it a game for years. But now pimps are running scared because a lot of them are starting to realize, wait a minute, am I now a trafficker? That puts a whole nother spin on it.
You said something that was so interesting to me. This whole conversation is a complete eye-opener because you are pointing out facts and perspectives that just went completely over my head every time I see a human trafficking sign. I always associate that with women and sexual activity. I never thought about the little kid on the block that's being used to distribute a drug dealer's product in the community. I never even thought about that. That's interesting. So what are some solutions? Well, I don't even want to say solutions because I know it's not like a one quick fix thing. You know what I mean? I don't think that there's one thing that can be done or a magic wand can be waved and they can just stop, because we got to get to the root of it. Let's think about the psyche of the person that's doing the trafficking.
Yeah.
That's a whole different conversation, let alone the little girl or the young man who is mentally broken or damaged to the point where he feels that this person is a savior for their situation. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I don't know if there's one thing that can be done that can eliminate this being a thing.
I mean, is there something too that parents can teach their children to look out for?
Right.
And I mean, because a lot of us don't know it, and the kids, like I said, TikTok.
Right.
You know, there's a lot of things we don't know that we may need to look out for to ask our children and make sure that we're monitoring, because we don't, you know.
Absolutely.
It gets crazy, and the world is so obsessed with entertainment. Human trafficking is something they don't even want to talk about. I wrote a blog about it. No one cared.
Wow.
Because it's not something they want to talk about. They want to be entertained all the time.
Yeah.
Something like that is like, well, you know, the parents should watch your children. But like you said, it's on a bigger scale, so.
Right.
Well, let's be real. When it comes to giving, I don't want to say rules or telling parents they need to create boundaries or do more work in their parenting skills, most parents are already tired. They're already dealing with their own issues. They're dealing with life. They're dealing with work. They're dealing with trying to keep food on the table, clothes on the back, etc., etc. They're dealing with so many things already that, and one more thing to this list that I have to do for my child might just push me over.
Yeah.
You know, I know someone now who's a single mother of 3, and she's just at the point. She's just it's always something. A single mother of 3, 2 jobs. You know, one on the way to high school, another just started middle school, another that's in elementary. Like, that's a lot.
Right.
That's a lot. So now I have to train my kid not only how to be a good student, how to study, how to excel in sports, how to resist peer pressure, how to not, give into drugs, whether I'm partaking in using it or whether I'm participating in selling it. Like, and now I have to teach you how to look out for these predators who have their own issues. Like, that's a lot.
So Liz, I don't think we have a choice, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard. It's going to be hard.
Like,
I mean,
we have to incorporate this into parenting.
And
right.
we have to.
Honestly, I'm sorry, go ahead. No, because something that you said just triggered a thought. Like, I'm huge on, I'm really big on parenting classes. I did parenting classes because we don't get a manual when we become. Like, I became a mother as a teenager, and even though my mother had already done it 4 times over, and my grandmother had 12 kids, they were already overwhelmed. They didn't have time to train me. It's like, look, just watch what I did. If you didn't watch and you weren't paying attention, then, you know, shame on you. And there were certain things I had to learn on my own. So I remember how much I got out of parenting classes. And I think that there needs to be a stigma taken off of going for counseling as parents and getting training as parents. It doesn't mean that we don't know how to parent or that we're a bad parent. Yes, there are some things that instinctually, there's some things that naturally we already have in us, you know, especially as mothers. There's certain things that we just naturally know to do, but then there's some things we just don't think about, like human trafficking. Who thinks, okay, at a certain point I need to have this conversation with my daughter. At a certain point I need to have this conversation with my son about getting stopped by the police. It's like there's points in our time, in our times that we hear things, and media kind of, you know, gives us this like cue. Okay, it's time to have this talk. But by the time we have those,
remember when the talk was just the birds and the bees?
Exactly.
Like, now we gotta keep talking.
There's so much we gotta keep talking. It's like we have to keep talking. And this is the thing I think that's important. We have to remember that it's okay to rely on your village. Like, it really does take a village. And I think we have to start incorporating in our village, not just the aunties and the grandmas, because sometimes they don't know, but incorporating professionals. That's part of our village. Incorporating advocates. So I think that it's important for every school to have parental advocates. I think that there should be advocates for our children as well, but there should be somebody that's an ally for the parents, because when you have a parent who can't even take time off from work to come to the parent-teacher conference because they're afraid they're going to lose their job, and they feel like a bad parent because the teacher is coming at them feeling like, well, I'm raising your child and I can't control little Jimmy. You need to do more at home so that I can instill the values that you're instilling at home are not in line when they're conflicting with what I'm trying to instill in class. There should be a parental advocate that's like a liaison between the school and the parents, so that there can be some common ground, so it doesn't feel like a tug of war between the teachers or the administrators against the parents. Because a lot of times our children, as Black women, our children are going to schools that are predominantly taught by white teachers, and that can't relate to what our children are going through and what they're dealing with and the type of parenting that we have going on at home. So that's a whole nother topic. But if we have parent advocates that are in place that will help parents to have these kinds of conversations with our children and to teach them for us too, as professionals, look, don't worry, I got you. I'll have this conversation. Let me go over with you what we're going to talk about, so that when I go over this, we both get educated on it, so that when I talk to your child about this, you can go over it again with them at home, however that looks like. I believe that's a start. Again, like you said, it's not a one size fits all, but I think that's one of the things that we can do. And I think you're right too. There's some things at the root of it that we really have to deal with. And I think the root of it is generational trauma.
You know what? And that's something that you said, something else that I thought was just so profound, because I mean, we have a lot of young mothers. You know what I mean? We have a lot of mothers, and I even see a lot of older women that are also getting caught up in this whole social media era. So it's to a point now where they're almost blending in with the other, young, I don't want to, say any catchphrases, because I'm not pointing out any particular artist or anything like that. I'm not picking on anybody, but I see people with children that are, these parents are participating in certain TikToks. Like, everybody needs attention right now. Everybody needs attention. Nobody, you know what I'm saying? Everybody needs some sort of validation in some form from people that don't like you in real life, but that like means everything to you, to the point where I have to do this, or I have to.
The trend, and that's what I noticed on TikTok. Because I'm on TikTok now, but I post, like substantial stuff. I post about the human trafficking and about, the abuse of women, and just so many different things. And everyone is following the trend. Oh, it was some kind of dance they were doing, and that's what my age, and that's what they're doing. I'm like, really?
Yeah.
Everyone's just copying.
And it's fine. Not saying that you can't have fun, but it's like, I think there needs to be an even balance.
Yeah.
Because listen, think about this, ladies. These children, they are our future doctors, lawyers, when we're up in age and have to be a nurse. And I hope we don't have to go to a nursing home, knock on wood. But you know what I mean? But this is the future.
Right.
This is our future. And unfortunately, like you said, parenting does not come with a manual other than the holy book, I believe. Right. However,
but that doesn't even cover it.
Some things are just not covered in there. Because there's a lot of things that we can't learn from our parents. I was raised by my grandmother, you know what I mean? So it's my mind's a little bit different, but what was available, what's accessible to our kids now wasn't accessible to them. Mm-hmm. So we have to constantly educate ourselves on like being in the know. Right. I have some parents now that I know, Lord, I don't want to say my name, but they don't want to follow their kids on social media. Why would you not follow your child on social media? And then she said, my kid needs some privacy. Ooh. Child, I could not even close the door when I had friends over.
My mother took the door off my room.
You understand me?
She took the door off the hinges.
Please, I didn't even have a lock on the door, let alone privacy. So, I get it. I think kids are exposed to so much, right? In this generation, and just not being able to retain all of it, because it's always something new. It's always something new.
All kinds of information.
Yeah. So, getting back on the subject of sex trafficking, it's so easy for kids to be blindsided or to be sucked into a trend or a dance, not knowing that you're doing something that's enticing this man or over here that has this sickness, or you look like you're ready to hit the block. So now we got Mr. Homie around the corner, like, little fella, let me get you some real money. You flashing fake money on social media.
That's what they do.
That part, you feel me? So it's like, man, what do we do?
And also with the women, because I know a lot of, I won't mention that, but with the women, they reach out to them through direct messages, because I know a couple of guys have done that to me. It's like, well, I can be your sugar daddy, and but that's how yes. I can be your sugar daddy, and I can offer you this, and this amount. And I've had people say it more than once, and I'm like, yeah, okay, this is another way. This is how they get their women too. Yeah. They reach out to them on social media and
a sugar daddy. I tell them I want a low-calorie diet. I'm sugar-free.
And get you somewhere, which...
what people probably need, what I would say to moms or parents in general that don't want to follow their children on social media because they want to give them their privacy, would you allow your child to just go down a dark alley and say, I want them to have their privacy, I'm not going to worry about what's waiting for them around that corner, I'm not going to worry about what's in that alley?
When we send them, you don't know what's out there.
Exactly. When we send them into social media channels, we are sending them into thousands and millions, if not millions upon millions of dark alleys that are accessible to them. They can go anywhere in this world on the internet, and we're not following them into these spaces to see what they're encountering. That's like saying, okay, look, I don't care what's waiting for them as long as my child feels like they got privacy and independence. That's not our main concern. Our main concern as parents should not be to be our child's best friend and to make sure that they get everything.
Friend later when they're old enough
there's time
and mature enough.
They'll be older way longer than they're young.
But they need parents first. And just like you said, they're going into places and they don't know what's out there. Mm-hmm. You can go a place and not know where you're going, but on the internet, people can be whoever they want to be as well. So you don't know who's your child who's pretending to be another kid, really holding conversation. Like,
and we know this happens. Everybody knows that this happens, but we don't want to follow our children.
It's too much work. People don't want. Listen,
it's laziness. It's laziness,
ma'am.
Yeah. It's lazy parenting. Unfortunately,
let me tell you something about this microwave society chat.
Yeah,
we look. Let me go on now.
Well, let me say this because I think people need to have a visual. And a young lady who was doing a documentary on human trafficking, I told her to include this visual in her documentary. I said, have a scene where you show how many predators exist in any given neighborhood and how many are following minors on social media. Ooh. And then have a visual of a child with thousands, because it's in the thousands, in any given jurisdiction, any given geographical small location, show thousands of men following this one little girl, because that is really what's happening. You have all of these men and you have these girls online, and you have thousands upon thousands that are waiting for the right moment, and they're setting the bait, just waiting for the right young girl to take that bait. And when you look at how many people are out there looking and searching for victims, they're hunting
for them to turn of 8. Oh, I can't wait for you to turn 18.
Can you now? Let's talk about that. Can we be now?
How many times has that been said to you when you grow up? Oh, I can't tell you how many times that was said to me. When I was a little girl in elementary school, I had these gold and black beads in my hair. My mother had braided my hair. I had the beads shaking, and I was walking down. Yep, I was walking down the street because I'm just click clacking. And this older man came up to me and said, "You're gonna be fine when you grow up." Now I'm in elementary school. I think I was in 3rd grade. That's so awkward.
What would a grown man? And I remember I was in high school and I went to a college, a tailgate party at one of the homecoming football games or something like that. And the man who was taking college students around to these colleges on college tours, he was looking at one of the teenagers cheerleading. Now based on what someone knew about her, they knew she was 18 and that she was a freshman in college. She's fresh out of high school, and he's like, And I'm thinking to myself, she's almost the same age as these girls you taking around to these colleges. I don't care what society says. I don't care whether in the state of Connecticut or in the state of New York what the age of consent is. No grown man, like in their right mind, should even be fantasizing about this little girl who is young enough to be not just your daughter but your granddaughter. I mean, this was an old man. So what I'm thinking is, like, how many people are just waiting because we know their bodies might look mature, and we know that society might say that they're ready for an adult relationship, but we know their minds are not fully developed. Your brain ain't even fully developed. Your executive function of your brain is not even fully developed at that age to even understand the long-term ramifications of your actions.
Right. And that it's unfortunate because we live in America. We already know how the food is here, and sometimes it does cause both little boys and little girls to develop physically faster than they develop mentally. And when that happens, it's so sad and it's sickening because little girls, they have the influence of social media telling them that because you have this body, you should dress this way. And even the clothes that they're making. Like, I look at some of these high school pictures. Listen, I look like I was 12. These girls look, full beat. I want to go back to high school and do it all over again, because I'm just like, wait a minute, we did. I
didn't have all of that.
Listen.
I didn't even have a long nail. The nail.
They got pots until I was 16, or talk to boys in phone.
So the stuff that they do, they getting their hair done. They got they got bundles. They got their face beat. They're going to school looking like models, and
looking like what they see on TV. But you know what? I'm not gonna hold them too much, because we did the same thing, but what we saw on TV back then, our trends were just different.
Yeah.
So you know what I'm saying? We had the fly Nikes and all the asymmetric haircuts.
Right.
And
it was
you
more
know what I'm saying?
sporty.
It was different.
Round the way girl.
Right. Now it's just more.
I know when I said about the parents being proactive, I guess, in telling their children what to look out for.
Right.
Like, okay, for instance, I seen something on the news where this girl supposedly had gotten kidnapped, and she was running. She ran into a guy to help her, and he just stood there.
Wow.
He stood there because I guess he didn't feel comfortable.
People don't know what
to
do.
Yeah, so I think what needs to be done as a society is somebody sees that when they said it takes the village. You see someone being hurt, you should help them.
Right.
You know, but I mean, not like the cop said, it's your own, but you have to put yourself in that person's shoes. If you were a mom, but that's your daughter.
Right.
You want someone to help her.
Exactly.
So why not?
Yeah.
Why not help if you can?
Can I be transparent for a minute? Yeah. When I was working in the hotel, and I was a night auditor, I was working from 11 to 7 in the morning. And this was after I had been trafficked already the first time. But I would see women being brought in, and they were Russian women, and they were brought in from a strip club locally, and these men were basically putting them into these hotel rooms, and they were selling them, of course, for money. They were prostituting. They were pimping these women out. And I saw how they kept them drugged up, and I saw how they kept them completely just inebriated, like constantly drunk, constantly drugged up. These women didn't know what they were doing. Half of them, they couldn't even hold them. They were being dragged in, literally being held up, brought up to these hotel rooms. And I'm checking them in. Never once said a word. And when it dawned on me that what I was witnessing was human trafficking, was sex trafficking, I remembered those women, and I said, what can we do to educate hotel workers, airport personnel, doctors, nurses, anybody that is in the industry where you're more than like teachers, you're more likely to encounter women who are in these predicaments, in these situations, girls who are in these situations, men who are in these situations. If we can educate them on not just what it looks like, but what to do. What's the appropriate response?
That's gold, what you just said. Think about it. Implementing a training course for people that work in public environments where there is a high volume of sex trafficking. Like, for example, years ago when I worked at an eye store, long time ago, like college age, and I remember we would take training courses on whenever like new products would come out, or social communication with your colleagues type, courses you have to do to show, I did this training course on equality and all this stuff, not all this crap. Well, no, not crap. Stuff.
And you get some
all
kind
this
of
stuff.
certificate.
Right. You get this little thing. I did my course to keep my job, whatever. So I think that's something that we should definitely see for people that work in hotels, people that work in certain restaurants, like spots. These are the signs that you look for. If so, this is what you do. Like, and the whole social justice thing, like that's super important. But I think there's a larger situation at hand where we can try to, even if we can give a number to the ladies, because most of the ladies, and I'm saying ladies just because that's what I identify with sex trafficking, but it happens with boys too. Most of them are usually so broken that they don't know anywhere to go. Right. They don't have anything else. They can't see a lot of. Life has already destroyed them mentally, emotionally, spiritually so bad. It's like that. All they know is the street. But just let me get by. Yeah. They're focused on survival, and then what they have to do to survive is, acquiesce to whatever this person who's saying that I take care of you, I love you, nobody else wants you, or whatever is being said to these people. Like, I think that's all they know. Yeah. And then that becomes your reality.
Right.